Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Hi, Gladys.
Hi.
Oh, my God. I'm so thrilled to have the visionary Gladys McGarey on my show, Soul Stories, because as my guests know, this show is about people who have made a difference on the planet and are making a difference, and she's both of those. So this is a thrill for me and for my guests to have her on and get to what made her how she is, and to hear some of her visionary thoughts about the future of medicine and where she's going to take us now. So first I'm just going to ask her, do you remember, Gladys, back in the mid-90s, I think you were either writing or you finished your first book called The Physician Within You with Jess Stern.
Yes.
And he had come to my office, which I thought we were on the leading edge till I found out about you. And we were doing a whole clinic on integrative medicine. We had osteopaths, we had acupuncture, we had Native American healers, everything. And we thought we were ahead of the curve, but then we didn't know about you. So, and he came in and he said, "Okay, you have to meet Gladys McGarey." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Plus, you need to come to me because I need to be your writing teacher." And I said, "Okay." He's pretty bossy. You do what he says. So I started going to his house, and he was working with me. And I've had a lot of experiences with Native American, and he kept telling me, put more shamanism in your book, because I've done sun dancing and ceremonies. They welcomed me into their tribe. And so I did what he said, and it came out pretty good. So anyway, so that was our connection. And I went to my bookshelf last night, and I pulled out the book, The Physician Within You, and inside was an endorsement from Jess. And it reminded me, he said, "Don't give up." He said, "Don't give up." He said, "Call Gladys. Don't forget to call Gladys and put more shamanism in your book."
Yes, sure.
So that was thrilling. Well, first, let me introduce you, Gladys, properly. Dr. Gladys Taylor McGarey is an internationally recognized visionary, and she is the mother of holistic medicine. Dr. Gladys, as she's affectionately known, is board certified in holistic and integrated medicine. She has held a family practice for how long now, Gladys? How many years?
Well, I retired when I was 86. I don't know, a long time.
So you're not doing the dream interpretation?
Oh, I'm still doing that. All of a sudden, I wasn't going to retire from active practice until I had something to retire to. So, yeah, but we closed that office, and that was in 86. And I was 86 at the time. It was not 2006. So, yeah.
I do dream work too.
Yeah.
It was passed down to me from the Yaqui tribe, from the Yaqui women.
Yeah, what a difference that makes in our practice, doesn't it?
So she also, this is really incredible, is the co-founder of the American Holistic Medical Association and past president. She was also the co-founder of the Academy of Parapsychology and Medicine. And she was the first, this is amazing. She was the first to utilize acupuncture in the United States as a physician. And she taught other physicians how to do it. So that's amazing too. She's a pioneer without question and pretty obvious. She's tirelessly pioneered work in holistic medicine, natural birthing, and the patient-physician partnership, which is so important in functional medicine, right? So that didn't even exist when you were doing that. So among Dr. Gladys's innovations for natural birthing was the Baby Buggy program, founded in 1978. And that featured a fully equipped paramedical and emergency transport vehicle for home deliveries. So that's pretty incredible. She also co-founded the ARE Clinic in Phoenix, Arizona, where she and her former husband pioneered integration of allopathic and holistic practices, laying down the groundwork for the cultural shift in recent years. And it's starting to happen, Gladys. It's starting to happen.
It really is, yeah.
So her efforts are worldwide and continue to receive national acclaim, and they should. Dr. Gladys has written and lectured extensively. She's the author of 5 books: The Physician Within You, which we alluded to already, Born to Live, Living Medicine, the World. It is the old world, but the world needs old ladies. Budhu's Path to Enlightenment, and also your daughter Analia wrote a book about you, Born to Heal. That was a fat one. And she continues to write numerous articles for health publications, both as a columnist and a feature writer. She's now starting to be on podcasts like mine, and I know she did one for Switzerland lately. And her public speaking career bridges 4 decades, and she's been sharing the podium with people like Andrew Weil, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and many other big names, who became her associates in the American Holistic Medical Association. So she's just done everything and continues to, which is astounding. She now has her main passion, and has been her passion for many years, is the foundation of living medicine. And you can go online and find that. And they have a newsletter. I suggest signing up for that. And we're going to hear more about that from Gladys. So Gladys, one thing we like to do on this show is find out what are the roots of what made you the way you are. And I took time to read a lot of your books, so I understand you were born in India, and that had a great influence on you.
Right.
So your parents were both doctors.
Yeah.
And they were missionaries to a remote part of India on the Himalayan slopes. And you got to see all this firsthand from the time you were a tiny tot.
Yeah.
And it was their compassion, I understand, and the way they treated people that kind of shaped you. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And that was 100 years ago, I'm impressed with that.
Right? It was 100 years ago. Yeah. Tell us about it a little bit. Tell us.
Okay, well, my parents were both osteopathic physicians. My dad was an osteopath and an MD. That's the only way they got out on the mission field. And both were taught by A.T. Still. So they, they went to India in 1914 and went to North India, which is where I grew up, to a city called Roorkee. But from there, they took their medical work into the jungles. And we lived in tents in the jungles all winter long while they treated anybody or anything. There's a wonderful story about my mother treating an elephant and, things like that.
Let's hear that. Let's hear that story.
Okay. Well, my mother was this wonderful lady who was just 5 5'1". So she's a little person. But the camp was set up, and my dad and brothers had gone on a big hunt because we had tigers and leopards around us, and they would attack the villages. And they went on hunting trips to help the villagers because of the animals that were attacking them. It wasn't just trophy hunting. Mm-hmm. So they were gone. And my mother went to the medical tent this morning, and I was about 9 years old, I think. And so I was tagging along with her because that's what I like to do. And all of a sudden there's this elephant in the camp, and the elephant boy leads the elephant up to the tent. And he says to my mother, this elephant stepped on a bamboo stump and got it into its leg, and its leg is hurting, and he can't walk properly. Mm. And he's the Maharaja's favorite elephant, so the Maharaja has sent me to have you fix his leg. And my mother says, well, I don't treat elephants. And he says, you're a doctor? And she says, yes. He says, you treat elephants. She says, okay. So she says, she goes up to this elephant and she pats the elephant on the leg and starts talking to it. And the elephant's trunk comes along, and, it's just, everything's fine. And she reaches down and sees where the problem is and tells me to go to the medical tent and fix up some potassium permanganate, which I knew how to do because she had told me this, and get some forceps and some long forceps and a syringe. So I got her the equipment. All this time she's talking to the elephant, and finally, and patting its leg and telling him she was there. And finally, I brought the stuff up to her, and she reached with forceps in, and she pulled out a bamboo strip of wood that was stuck in the elephant's foot, and it was about a foot long. So she pulled that out and then syringed the whole area with the potassium permanganate. And there was no sense in trying to bandage. I mean, this is an elephant. So she syringed it, and everything was settled down. Then she told the mahout to bring the elephant back the next day so she could take a look at it. And so the mahout was pleased with that. The elephant was pleased, and they walked off. The next day they came back, and as soon as the elephant came into the camp, he went over to where my mother was and put his trunk around her waist.
Aww.
And she said, now be a good boy, now let me go. But every time he would let go, she'd walk a little bit and he'd put his trunk around her. So this elephant had fallen in love with her. And but so we kids had a wonderful time. We went with the elephant down to the Ganges River, and the elephant reached with his tongue and sprayed us with water and everything. It was great.
Oh,
really, it was the whole time we were in that camp. The elephant didn't want to leave her side.
Wow. That's something. I understand you have this vision about the Living Medicine Foundation, and you've held this vision for many years. I also understand that maybe it started, like, what a metaphor, when you crawled out on a limb once in India.
Well, yes, it's went to school in the Himalayas. That was 7,500 feet. It was way up there. Woodstock School, and it was a great place to go to school. Only problem was that I'm severely dyslexic, so I had to repeat first grade twice, and it was very hard for me to be in school because I understood nature around me much better than I could see the letters, and I knew the letters and numbers, but they wouldn't stay in place. And so I couldn't read and I couldn't write, so I was a class dummy. But when I would come home, we lived in a house that was a mile above where the school was, and I just could hardly wait to get home because the sanctuary was there. My Aya loved me, and everything was fine. But also, when I could, I would go off by myself because, well, there were dahlias growing wild and orchids on the tree. I mean, it was gorgeous. It was a wonderful place. But I didn't know, and I know I must have been about 8 or 9 when this happened. I saw this oak tree growing out of the side of the hill, and it was growing straight out, and it was a young oak, and the trunk was just about 6 inches in diameter. It was a good strong trunk, but it wasn't a big oak. It was an oak that was growing straight, a young oak that was growing straight out of the hill, out of the mountain, and I climbed up on that trunk and inched myself out. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I was looking for something. And I was hanging onto this trunk with my arms around it, just inching and I could have dropped 1,000 feet, and it was that far above. It was just sticking straight out over the mountain. And I inched my way out until I could finally see what it was that I was looking for, and I didn't understand what it was, but it was the horizon. And I was looking for the horizon. Once I saw the horizon, I thought, okay, my world came back into place, and I could inch myself back off. But if I'd done anything to move either way, I'd have fallen 1,000 feet. It was one of those things that I just had to do. So when things got really bad in school, I could come home and leave my brothers and my sister and everything and just go off by myself and find my oak tree. And that I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what a horizon was. But I knew that I had to find this horizon.
Wow. So that's when it all began for you.
Well, I didn't started long before that, but that's when I can look back and see a point in time. In fact, I flunked the first 2 years in school, so I was really the class dummy. But when I got into 3rd grade, the teacher, Miss McGee, saw something in me that no one else had seen, and she appointed me governor of the class, which allowed me to present things that our class had done to the whole student body. Now, I could talk and I could do things, but I couldn't read or write. But she seemed to know that was something that I had to do, to reach groups. So I could present a paper that somebody had told me, and I could memorize that and then present that to the whole student body. And that I could do. So, in life, there have been steps that have brought me from places where I was probably stuck, if I could have allowed myself to be stuck in those places, and moved on and moved on and moved on. It's been life. Life, as long as you're moving and looking forward, your life is good.
Yes. I'm very much of a forward mover myself. That's so amazing. But yet here you are with all these degrees and all these accolades and all these accomplishments. So, you moved through it.
Mm-hmm.
You moved through it. So when did the idea of the Foundation for Living Medicine actually come to you? I know you worked with Edgar Cayce, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, we had the ARE clinic, which was the Association for Research and Enlightenment, and it was the clinic for the Edgar Cayce work. So the work that we were doing was clinical work in research with the Casey readings, and which opened the doors for us to everything really in the universe. But it did put us in a position where we were looking for, and that's why we found acupuncture. That's why we found these things, is because the Casey material they didn't talk about acupuncture, but talked about energy and energy medicine. And when you start talking about energy medicine, there's a whole story about how we got started with acupuncture. But the ARE clinic we took our practice, which Bill and I had, which was the Oliver Medical Group, and became the ARE clinic in 1969. And from then on, this began to grow into in amazing ways. Because the Edgar Casey work was the basis for what we were doing and for what we were finding.
Yeah, his work still does, I mean.
Absolutely.
Jess Stern, turned me on to him.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
He still has a lot to teach us.
But you asked me a question. When did I start thinking about?
When did the vision of the Foundation for Living Medicine come to you?
Well, hard things happen in life, you go through things, but in 1989, Bill McGarry, my husband, asked for a divorce, which threw me into, well, I had to do something. And it was very difficult. But my daughter, who was a young physician just starting out, we started the Scottsdale Holistic Medical Group. And I had the opportunity of doing a lot of different things at that time, but I also started a foundation because I knew that I had to continue the work that we'd been doing at the Edgar Casey, at the ARE clinic. And although I named the clinic, the research foundation after my mother, the Beth Taylor Foundation, it finally morphed into the Foundation for Living Medicine, because for years we went along trying to find what it was that we were trying to say. Life is a process. For me, it has been steps along the way. And what I became aware of was that everything that I was taught in medical school was about war. It was about killing. I started medical school in September of 41. The war started in December, and I was in medical school all through the war. So everything that we learned about had to do with killing. And the problem was, when I got out of medical school, I discovered that the medical field was still stuck in the whole process of killing. Mm-hmm. The whole focus of medicine was to get rid of disease and get rid of pain, and there was a war on disease. And for me, that was okay for the time, but as I got immersed in a family practice in Wellsville, Ohio, I found out that was not only not adequate, but there was something really wrong with the direction we were working in, because I'd have patients who would have the same disease, but their relationship to the disease was completely different. And so how in the world was I going to treat that to kill the disease? And the patient is telling me their body and their whole life story is telling me something else. So I had no foundation on which to build my not just theory, but my life in living about medicine, because there was something there that was completely wrong.
Yeah.
And little by little, I began to realize that we don't need to fight the disease. That the disease isn't going to go anyplace, except, well, what happened? My oldest son, among other things, my oldest son is an orthopedic surgeon, and when he came through Phoenix, as he finished his residency and just ready to start his practice, he said to me, "Mom, I'm real scared. I'm going to go into the world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hands. I don't know if I can handle that." And I said, "Well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But if you can understand that it's your job to do what you've been taught to do, which is amazing, and then support the patient as they do their own healing, you have nothing to be afraid of." So I had gotten to the point where I knew that all healing came from within the patient, that the patient in the long run has to do the healing, and that the no two diseases were the same. So if we expected to fight and kill the diseases, something was completely wrong. And we had to come back to the whole concept that what we're looking for was life and living, not killing pain and killing diseases.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Even when I went to medical school, it was the disease that was honored over the suffering of the patient.
It still is.
And the science was the altar which we drew. And I saw the same thing you saw. No, that's it. That cannot be where we take our sacred tools from, because we need to honor the person, and each person is different, of course, but they all have their own energy. And like that quote you put in your book from Hippocrates, I hadn't heard: "If you are not your own doctor, you're a fool." So
yes,
but sometimes people need help with that.
Oh, we can't do it alone. Yeah. And there are ways. And you see, the thing that I was learning was that it's not the modality with which we approach the disease. It's the modality is used so that the patient can use that to deal with the disease, and the patient can deal with their pain, maybe never get rid of it. I have a patient. This woman is amazing. She had a ruptured esophagus, and she healed it by healing it herself. She had no surgery or anything, and she had a cousin and an aunt who had surgery for this genetic defect, and they both died, but she's still alive, and she's 78. So anyway, this woman is an artist, and she suffered with terrible pain all her life. But what she has done is what she calls, she looks for the ting. She paints everything. She paints her shoes. She paints the pieces of cloth. She paints if the pain starts up, she grabs her paint and she'll paint the wall. She has a whole wall that she's painted, and keeps going until what she calls the ting happens, the pain ting. She now has a pain ting, then she can deal with the pain. So you see what I was learning through these amazing people that we call patients was that they find ways in which they can deal with and live through and oftentimes overcome an illness, but sometimes not. And even their illness is not the problem. FDR, look at what he did. He was in a wheelchair, and still he was president of the country. So it's not the modality, that it's not whether we use chiropractic or whether we use osteopathy or allopathic or medicine. If we find something that will be working to help support the patient as they do their own healing, that's living medicine.
Awesome.
And so it has evolved over time. I guess it's been about actually started using the name in about 2006 or something like that. I had been using it before that in my writings and so on, but we became the Foundation for Living Medicine in 2006. But the Foundation for Living Medicine, in my way of looking at what's happened in medicine, is that our focus is on life and living. And the very foundation of it are 5 L's. The first L is life. Life by itself is like a little seed that has all the energy of the universe within the shell. I mean, you can find a shell, a seed in a pyramid and plant it and it'll grow. I mean, the life energy is there. It's there, but it's within the shell. And it will never grow until it's touched by love. Mm-hmm. Love is the healing medicine. Native Americans know this. My parents knew it, But love, when love activates that seed, it begins to grow. So those are the first 2, and they're integrally related. They don't function without the other. I mean, love has to manifest in life, and love are like the yin and the yang, the 2 aspects of duality on this dimension. Okay, they're not separate. But the third one is laughter. Laughter without love is cruel, it's mean, it's cold. But with love, it's happiness and joy. And the fourth one is labor. Labor without love is, oh man, I gotta go to work. It's a drag that I'm stuck in this thing, It's just really, really hard. But labor with love is bliss. It's what made you go into medicine, and what made me go into medicine. It's what makes a singer sing. It's what makes a painter paint. It's what brings that life into being. Otherwise, you're just dragging it through. You're fighting some kind of a war against your very life force. And the fifth one is listening. Listening without love is empty sound. You don't hear it. But with love, it's understanding. Mm-hmm. And when I came up with those 5 L's, I thought, that's a foundation I can build on, And somebody asked me, well, what about forgiveness? What about hope? I said, well, those are the building blocks with which you build on the Foundation for Living Medicine. I needed a foundation with which I could work that made some sense to me, and we can begin to build on that foundation. So with that process in mind, one of the things that the foundation has come up with is building a village for living medicine, which starts with birthing. I am so impassioned with the reality that what we have done to the birthing process is totally take away women's power. Mm-hmm. Women don't think they can have babies. They don't think they can birth babies. They think that a physician or a midwife has to deliver them of the babies. No, we deliver pizzas, we deliver speeches. We don't deliver babies. Women birth babies. And the birthing process is this amazing process that we have made so sterile and so, it's cold. Yeah, it is a disease. And when I found out it was a disease, it was about 15 years ago. I went in to see my banker, and the little banker comes in, she sits down, she's really happy. She says, I just went to see my doctor, he diagnosed me as pregnant. Well, I said to myself, there you have it. Pregnancy is now a disease. So you have to be diagnosed to be pregnant. I mean, come on, what a thoughtless thing we have done to women by taking away their power. I spent time in Afghanistan with the women. Anyway, that's another whole story. These are women since the beginning of time have known how to have babies, and they've known that the power is within them, that they have to. And since that, well, I don't know when all this stuff started, well, I guess beginning of time, but it really, I think when men realized how much pain women were going through, they wanted to help. And so they decided the way to help with having babies is to take away pain. Well, that's not the answer. We have to cooperate with it and use the pain for what it's doing, and use our muscles away and learn how to have babies again.
Yes. Yeah, I read something interesting in your book. Was it Viola Fryman had she told you that if you do nothing else but treat a newborn with your hands and take away the birth trauma, you've changed that child's life forever. Now, the birth trauma for somebody that goes through the medical kind of birthing is way worse than someone that has a natural birth.
Oh, well, the problem is that in the process of taking over the birthing process, we've made it sterile so that you can't, come on, that part of our body is not sterile. And when I was in medical school, we'd shave everything and paint everything and think we had a sterile, I mean, really, So anyway, to try and take away the bacteria out of our lives, which we tried to do with things that we put inside too, we need to learn with these other types of life. There is life in everything around us, and we really need to learn from that. And anyway, so I began working with home births when I was in this little town in Wellsville, Ohio. And, I was doing home births, and when I came to Phoenix in 1955, I decided it was still something I wanted to do because although, birthing in the hospital it took me 12 years to get husbands in the delivery room. I finally managed that in County Hospital in Phoenix. But we took everything that was normal and natural and moved it out. And when I was in medical school, we were taught to use forceps, and I was very good at it. But the reason we had to use forceps was because we were using twilight sleep so that the woman wouldn't feel any pain. And so you have a person who is just lying there, can't participate at all in anything that's going on, except she thinks that, whatever wild things going on in her mind. But the forceps we could do, I got so that I could do a breech delivery with forceps. You learn what you have to learn in order to live what you have to live. So there are times you go through processes that you have to let go of in order to actually go on into living what you need to live. So the process of birthing for me has come full circle from me being the one that I can go in there and I could do this thing, to being aware that the only thing I needed to do was to be there, aware of what's going on, know what's going on, do what needs to be done, and bless the baby as it is born.
Mm.
And so for years, we tried to come up with a term for that kind of birthing, natural birthing. Well, that wasn't it. Spiritual birthing. No, they thought it was a church thing. We never could come up. But then I had a dream. And in this dream, I was talking to a group of midwives. And I said to them, what we need to call it is loving birth. And of course, that's so what we're talking about is loving birth. And it fits right in with the 5 L's.
It does. Thank God that there's a trend now.
Back. Yeah. It's back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where they're at least breastfeeding their babies. When I got out of medical school, Nestle had just discovered the fact that they could put a formula together and all women were, to be a modern mother was to use the bottle. I tried to talked myself blue in the face trying to talk women into breastfeeding. It was old fashioned. They were going to do it the scientific way.
Yeah. Well, we have to, like you said, we've come full circle on a lot of stuff, and it turns out that nature is pretty smart. And we thought we were
wonderful.
We thought we were smarter than nature, and now we're getting back to where we know it's really about biomimicry, and nature leads the way. We need to try to make it more like that. And we need those bugs that they were trying to sterilize off the mothers. We need those bugs,
Yeah.
There's something I've been wanting to ask you, because I have in common with you that I've held the same vision for a long time, not as long as you, but for 30 years. And like I said, I spent a lot of time with Native Americans, and my understanding from my teachers is they say, not everybody is gifted with a vision.
No.
And when we are gifted with a vision, it's our purpose to carry out that vision forever, how long it takes. And it may not look like you think it looks, but you are carrying out that vision. Why do you think people encourage us to let it go, to, after a certain period of time when you haven't, in their opinion, achieved a vision that we should stop it or something? What do you think about that?
Well, I think there's such a thing as femifestation. Now, let me tell you a dream, and I think it ties into what you're asking. And I had this dream about, 3 years ago, maybe. I woke up because there was a big crash, and I woke up and I knew what I was dreaming. I was in the high Himalayas, and on my right hand was a young woman who was flat on the ground, just barely breathing, dressed in a little shift, and just barely alive. And on the left hand of this valley was a huge man in armor, just all armor. But he was in exactly the same position she was in, barely breathing. And the message that came to me at that point is that they've been trying to kill each other for eons. You've got to do something. And so I thought, okay, now what is this? And then I realized that the girl was on the right hand. That's the masculine side. And the guy was on the left hand, which is the feminine side. And the masculine and feminine have been fighting each other like this for eons and are about to kill each other. If we keep letting them do it, we need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend who said, as I was talking to her about this, she says, well, we know all about manifesting. Isn't it time we started femifesting, which we've actually been doing, but we never gave it a name? But in manifesting, it's like climbing Jacob's ladder. You have a goal, you accomplish. You get your degree, you build a house, you get a job, all of that's manifesting. You have a vision, you get it done. And you just, that's a vision, you have to get that done. So my vision is a vision for living medicine, and if I'm just manifesting, then I have to create that village for living medicine. And the fact is, it hasn't been created yet, but it will be. But in femifestation, it's not a Jacob's ladder, it's a spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be on the 5th level and know what's going on down in the 2nd level. I mean, that's how we women do things.
Mm-hmm.
You can't explain it. You just know that this needs to be done and you do it. I mean, I needed to see the horizon. I didn't know why.
Yes.
But these are things that when we know that there's something that needs to be done, and we don't let ourselves get sidetracked, we will, and it happens along the way. But if we can keep our vision, if we can keep moving towards the light with our shadow behind us, not in front of us, with the light moving as we're moving, ultimately we will accomplish it. It will be accomplished in divine timing, which we don't understand, because it's a living thing and it has no time, which is what you need if you're going to manifest. But when you're femifesting, okay, we'll get it done. It's the bringing the two together. So the whole concept of living medicine, the village for living medicine, is so real in my bones that I know it needs to happen. The world needs it.
Yes.
Wasn't it Hillary who said we need to be a village?
Mm-hmm.
We need to be the people who have neighbors, who have neighbors, who have neighbors, and the neighbors know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it's not, when we had the baby buggy, that's what it was. One of the wonderful things about the baby buggy was that it was this huge van that we had equipped for transport if we needed to, but on the outside was painted a stork, and it was blue and pink and all, it was just the whole thing. So when I or one of the midwives parked that baby buggy in front of the house, the whole neighborhood knew what was going on in that neighborhood. Now, if you go into labor, you go into the hospital, nobody knows. None of the neighbors know what's happening. But by golly, then, when that baby buggy was parked outside, the whole neighborhood knew what was going on in that house. And so it's different ways of understanding that we really do need our friends. We do need our neighbors. We even need the people that we don't like next door.
Mm-hmm.
It's or somebody that I have these friends of mine. They're both ministers, and he's a Republican and she's a Democrat. And so when they have an election coming up, they separate their yard and put their signs. I mean, they've made a lifestyle out of this, which works for them, Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing where you take life as it comes to you and you say, okay, I don't really like this very much, but how am I going to deal with it? You don't want to kill it. You don't want to destroy it. You don't want to get rid of it. You want to look at it and say, oh, yeah, okay. I've got big rocks out there. How am I going to live with those?
Mm-hmm.
It's, but here's another thing. I had a patient that really needed to go in the hospital. I forget what the problem was. And he said, nope, he'd brought all these parts into his body and he really wasn't going in. So I talked to him for a little while. And finally I said to him, but when a gardener prunes a tree, he doesn't cut the part of the branch off that's bad, or that because it's bad, he does it so that the tree will have more of its juice and energy to become what it needs to become. So it's not a taking away process. He takes away in order that he can give back to the source of it. And when I got through talking about this, he said, "Did you know I was a gardener?" And I said, "No." But it's that kind of a understanding that when you're working with life, and the reason for doing something is to enhance the life force, you find out how to do it.
Yeah.
That's your purpose for another really nice example of this. I had a woman who had really severe dermatitis on her arms, and nothing I did helped her, so I sent her to the dermatologist. Nothing he did helped her. So she came back and she's seeing, and I'm looking at these arms, and they're red and they're itchy and they're very uncomfortable. And so finally I said to her, "Do you know anything about visualization?" And she says, "Oh, well, maybe so, something." And I said, "Well, I'm thinking, if you come across a place where the land has been burned, and like one of the forest fires on your way up to Flagstaff, and that land has been burned up there, and then it's all black and it's dead. Yeah. But then the rain starts and the sun comes out, and all of a sudden you see little shoots of green coming up all over the place." And I said, "If you could visualize something like that, maybe we could do something about this." And she says, "Did you know that I was a firefighter?" Okay. These are the kinds of things when we can tap into the juice within us that makes us who we are. The beautiful thing about being in the field of medicine for me is that when I am working with a patient and I'm able to tap into the physician within that patient, and we become colleagues, we can have something happen.
Yes.
And it's it's usually, not always, but it's very often very surprising.
I totally get you. I get you. I've been doing that since I was an intern. Everybody else thought I was crazy. I'd go back to these patients' rooms and ask them what's going on in their lives, and everybody else was about the gallbladder in room 3 or something, so, but like you said, listening is to the patient too. But I get what you're saying about manifesting, because it's masculine.
Yeah.
And, like, where's the car, but I like the femifesting, because it's energetic, it's energy, and that's what we do. The women usually dream the dream and the men manifest it, but
that's right.
I mean, we have male and female parts to us, but you reframed it for me. So it's, and I don't know why I didn't think of it. I guess because it's my vision, but it's also your vision. But if we keep femifesting, it's happening anyway.
It's going to,
It's in the process. It's just God's time.
And that's why listening with love is understanding. We begin to understand what we've been seeing and hearing and knowing, but didn't know where to put it. But once we begin to really see the energy that's there.
And that requires listening. I mean, I always listen. I always say patients all come with their own answer.
Oh, yeah.
And if you listen, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to listen with love, like you said, and understand. But a lot of doctors are making out the prescription before they even get in the door, and that isn't going to heal them.
And they're trying to write a prescription for a disease. Something, I was so mad a few weeks back, I saw a T-shirt that said, if you're happy and you know it, it's your meds.
Oh.
I was so mad. What my kids learned was, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so we have taught people that it's their meds that are doing it. That's why they have this list of medications, all of which have side effects and all of this kind of thing.
I saw a T-shirt that said, "I take, Lipitor, and for the Lipitor, I now take metformin, and now for that I take this, and for that I take that." It kept going down, down, down. So that's the T-shirt they need to see.
Well, and another thing that I saw that I had, I guess it was on TV, a person was saying, I worry about my hepatitis C. And I thought, what a sad thing to say, that you worry about your disease. You know, think of the power that you're giving your disease. And then I got to thinking, how have I talked to a patient and said to them, how are you dealing with your diabetes? You know, that's a perfectly normal question to ask a patient that comes in, but that's the wrong question. I could say, how are you dealing with your blood sugar or your blood, whatever your blood's doing, but not your disease. Because when we claim the disease, and then that's what we think we're dealing with.
Yeah, and be more like, what are you eating, and how's your exercise, and things like
Ask
that.
them something about what's going on with the disease within them that they're in control of. See, we've taken the control away from people and given it back to the medication, which we really think is curing diseases, and
it's a Band-Aid usually. Yeah. Well, Gladys, oh my God, I could talk to you for days, but I want you to leave my guests with some of your medical futurism. You know, you're a medical futurist. I like to think of myself as a medical futurist, but you've been around a lot longer than me, and you've got a really good perspective. So tell us about what we need to do. How are we going to go into the future now?
In my dream of dreams is that the whole world becomes a village, okay? That we become aware that we are one race. We're not 5 races. We're one human race. We need to really understand we have brothers and sisters who are people who have thoughts and deeds and things that they do that are completely wrong in our mind, but they have a right to live too, and allow the world to listen to each other, begin to understand what it is that we're saying, begin to understand what the other people are saying about what they believe, which is not what I believe, and not to bring the understanding back into the process, so that then when we begin to think about other people, not as our enemies or less than who we are. I mean, look at each one of us as our brothers and sisters. Then we can begin to see the world as a world that is healing, because life will heal. Yes. And as we begin to really understand that life is our healer, and that we all have to take responsibility for ourselves, and that healing comes from within each one of us. We can get the thing, all kinds of modalities from the outside, all kinds of different things that do help, if they're in the process of being presented with love. Then the healing can happen, and healing does happen, and it's most unexpected.
And that'll heal the world. if we can do that.
We can do that. We can femifest it.
Yes.
We can manifest it as we femifest.
We're all one.
Right. Yeah.
I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Gail.
Okay. Well, let's stay in touch. How do we tell us how we get in touch with you or the foundation?
It's the Foundation for Living Medicine. If you call Rose Winters, she's the CEO of the Foundation for Living Medicine.
Rose's number is 602-502-2234.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And we'll stay in touch. Okay. I love you. Bye.
Good. I love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the International Podcast People, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokek brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath, especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance.